Hi everyone. Welcome back to Faraday Academy. If you don't know me or if this is your first time here, my name is Gwen, and I am here with a guest today, Danny Thompson, who probably doesn't even need an introduction. So he's basically a software developer who's really well known online now for helping people in their journey learning to code. And today he's actually here to discuss soft skills like dealing with negativity, communication, imposter syndrome. So if you have any questions for Danny, then feel free to leave them in the chat and we'll try to get to all of them today. So let's get started. Danny, do you want to introduce yourself to everybody?
Absolutely. I'm so excited to be here with everyone, and I'm a huge Gwen fan. I think she knows I've been silently stalking her for a long time because her tech content is phenomenal beyond belief.
Thank you.
I am also, well, to introduce myself, I am Danny Thompson. I am a software engineer. I am also a community leader. We lead meetups where we provide learning resources, lessons, hands-on learning for people in our community. My biggest goal is to help people break into right now, if you're watching this later down the road or whatever it may be, right now I'm currently working on a series where I go over people's LinkedIn profiles and we show what they're doing right, what they're doing wrong, how to fix that and end up on more job searches. Because at the end of the day, I love that you're learning how to code, but we're missing one connect from knowing the thing to landing the position. So I'm trying to create that bridge to bring that closer together and make it easier for everyone to land their dream jobs. I always realize that I have my dream job and people try to land in tech and they don't exactly know how to make that happen. So I like to provide that resource when I can. I am also a podcaster. I'm on several podcasts and I do my podcast as well, Commit Your Code. So if you ever want to check that out, go ahead. Where I interview very interesting people about their journeys in tech, and I am a sex symbol. No, I'm just joking. But besides that, I'm just very active and trying to help as many people as I can get exactly what they want out of this.
That's awesome. So real quick, where is this LinkedIn content where you review people's LinkedIns and portfolios?
All of my social media is the exact same handle with D Thompson Dev. So you can find my YouTube channel D Thompson Dev, my Twitter channel is D Thompson Dev. LinkedIn, all that good stuff is all D Thompson Dev. So it should be very easy to find out where we put all of our content.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Hi, Yusuf. Hi, everyone in the chat. Again, feel free to ask any questions that you have while we're talking. We're just going to start asking some questions and just type in whatever you want. So I did have this question the other day on Instagram and I thought about you because I thought, oh, Danny's a great person to ask this question. So, and I know you have an awesome story and background of yourself getting into tech and then helping so many other people into tech. So a lot of people in the beginning have this mindset where they doubt their own skill set or worry, what if I can't solve this problem? And it's this pervasive fear that can be crippling on some level. So how would you advise someone to deal with that when they are starting out or a newer developer?
So I get this kind of question a lot. And the fact of the matter is, I don't care how intelligent you are on a subject or how beginner you are on a subject. You will never know it all. One of my most inspirational moments in my tech career was within my first week in my first job. And I always beat myself up to memorize syntax, memorize things. I want to know everything. And I remember I came across a problem. I worked on it for a few hours and I couldn't figure it out. And I went to the most senior developer at our company, and he's just a couple desks away from me. And I go to him with this problem, and he looks at it, he's like, I have no idea. And he just starts Googling it. Someone with his knowledge of the code base and with his technical savvy had no clue how to solve this problem, and the first thing he does is go to Google and find the answer. That let me know then, I don't care what level you're at, even the Microsofts and the Googlers of the world, have to utilize a search engine to find their answers because they don't know it. So don't
Yeah.
worry if you don't know an answer. Don't worry if a subject is completely brand new to you. What matters most is that you approach a problem with problem solving abilities. So how are we going to solve this problem? Break it down into very searchable features. For example, let's say I need to figure out how to do a gradient in CSS. The first thing you do is put that term into a very searchable feature. So you want to put the language that you're searching and the exact problem that you're looking for, start going through the results slowly but surely. So you'll attack each step one by one. By having those bite-sized problems instead of one big problem, you will now solve it in a more efficient fashion than trying to say, how do I make the entire web page? Instead of the entire web page, let's focus on the header. Let's focus on the image content. Let's focus on the sidebar. Let's focus on the footer. And then you have your website.
Okay.
So if you don't know it, that's fine. Just approach it slowly.
So you're saying that some of the worry is caused because the problem looks so big and you don't know how to solve it yet. But everyone kind of has that problem of not knowing how to solve problems. So you have to understand, I guess, how to solve problems. So this is also kind of goes along with imposter syndrome, right? Where you're so worried and stressed out and you're basically doubting yourself and doubting your own abilities. So what's the difference between just being a beginner and not really having abilities and actually crossing the line into imposter syndrome?
So to preface this, I've yet to meet a professional at any level that hasn't had imposter syndrome at some point in their career. But to know and understand what imposter syndrome is, you need to know what it is. And it's the fear of being exposed that, A, I'm not good at what I'm doing, the fear of, oh, they're going to find out I'm an amateur, the fear that someone's going to out you, but it's also the fear of how you will react when you're in that situation. So one great way to do that is I get imposter syndrome all the time. I actually get it pretty much before every code review. Something about that just freaks me out to like an unknown level. Like knowing that what's funny is I had a ticket one time with someone that is like a big junior and they're like interning and I was like, oh man, they're gonna look at my code and they're about to realize that I don't know nothing, I can't handle this. And like that fear was driving me nuts. And I was like, I know to some degree that I am much better than this person right here and that I know my concepts. Why am I freaking out? But it still comes up before every code review because a code review is a time where someone's objective is to be critical about what you're writing. So that always to some degree gets me.
Yeah.
But I've just become very friendly with imposter syndrome. I know it's there. It knows I'm here. We respect each other's boundaries. We're not going to cross in each other's ways. And I think as soon as you accept that this is a part of life, it's a part of this career, and you will never get over it to some degree, then you can now start making your own moves.
So,
because I think a lot of times the shock of imposter syndrome is what gets us the most, that when it creeps up, we don't know how to deal with it.
yeah.
Just know that it's going to be there no matter what.
Okay. So what was the big turning point for you? Like, when did you realize that you had imposter syndrome, and how were you able to kind of develop your strategies of how to tackle it?
So I think the first time I got it, I remember very clearly actually, and I will say the first real time I got it. I've always had like some doubts in this because my background, I come from frying chicken in a gas station. These cans batter chicken, they didn't dance on a keyboard, right? So completely different world there. And so when I remember, I think it was my like third week. Actually, no, it was my first week. And one thing that I also specify, and this is a complete tangent, is I highly recommend everyone to learn Git. I did not know Git going into this profession. I don't care what company you work at, you're going to work in Git. And if you don't know Git, Gwen has a killer tutorial on Git that you should check out. But
Thanks for the shout
I
out.
did not know Git, and I deleted a working branch that had a lot of work in it. And we lost all that work.
Oh.
And I remember I almost quit that job my dream job, by the way, before I got my first paycheck, because I could not handle the feeling when I realized what I just did. I thought I was just removing my changes. I did not realize everyone's change that was working on that branch. And pushing it up, it was a release branch. Anyway, it was really dumb. It was really, really, really. And number one, I shouldn't have been where I was, and I shouldn't have even been working on the terminal I was in at that point. But I deleted that. Impostor syndrome hit me so hard, and I remember I was talking to one of my coworkers, and I was like, "Dude, I'm gonna lose my job. Like, there's no way that I'm gonna be able to keep this." And he said very clearly, "Oh, that's all you did? Like, that's it?" And then he told me about how he was working on an application with his previous job, and he sent out 100,000 push notifications to 100,000 customers that he wasn't supposed to send. Talking about these scenarios and these situations is what helps people that are brand new to this. And that is why I'm very open about the mistakes that I make. I once made a 4-day delay in production because I missed a comma in an object. Like, I had no idea why it wasn't compiling. It was because of that. I missed a comma, and I remember when my coworker found it, and I was at a morning stand-up in front of the whole team, and now I'm being ousted. Like, we've lost 4 days because of this. And you just take it on the chin and keep going. But understanding that, I guarantee you, you're going to fail. You're going to fail in some way or another. I'll give you this guarantee right now. You are going to fail at least 100 times before you retire. Surprise! Now that it's not a surprise anymore, now you know how to deal with it. You're going to fail. Just be willing to accept that you're going to make that failure and just move past it. Take it on the chin, accept it. And here's another thing. Always be honest about your failure. One thing that I've noticed when people fail or they let imposter syndrome take over and they make a mistake, they dig themselves in a much, much deeper grave than what is necessary. If you're very outspoken about it, people can act quickly to try and help you. Even though I know it's in our nature to be like, how do I cover this up? I don't want to appear like a failure. You're going to go in the wrong direction 9 times out of 10. It's just not going to be worth it.
Okay. Yeah, that's really good advice. So we did have a question in the chat. It's not really about imposter syndrome, but I want to get your advice for this person. So Blackside asks if, as a beginner, you need a strong math background to be a developer.
No.
No.
Surprise, you really, really don't. I would say it depends on what area you're going to go into. Like, if you're doing, some security and stuff like that, you're probably going to need to know some math. But for web dev, I really highly doubt that you utilize math in any major capacity. I can honestly tell you I'm pretty terrible at math. So if math is a part of this job, I would have lost it by now. So, you and whatever math that you may ever need in life, it is very Googleable.
Yeah.
Like, you will find whatever you're looking for pretty quickly. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. If you know how to add and subtract and some stuff like that, then I think you're in good shape. There's no real, sin, cost, geometry and trigonometry equations over here. Like, it's just pretty bare bones simple. Now, if you're getting into, some high levels, maybe it's a different conversation.
Yeah, I definitely feel the same way. I think that's part of why a lot of people are scared from this field, is because they think that they need a computer science degree with all of the requirements. Like when I went to college, I didn't finish college, but when I went, you had to do Calc 1, 2, 3, differential equations, and there was some other kind of math requirement, plus a couple high-level science classes. So there were all these requirements just to basically become a software developer. And a lot of my old classmates are doing the same thing that I'm doing now, basically, which is not using any of that math that they learned in college.
So. Yeah. I know some very, very, very intelligent people. The tech lead on my team, for example, is probably one of the smartest human beings I've ever met in my life. And even he will tell you he has never used math and anything that we do in our field. I think the only time you need math, if I'm being honest, is if you've gone not into regular development, but if you're security, maybe data science, like if you're in one of those science areas, for sure you're probably going to be utilizing some calculations of some sort. But regular, web dev or backend stuff, not really.
Yeah. Yeah, and even I'd say for the other types of coding, if you want to get into those, there are also so many online courses that you can take to kind of pick up math as you go.
That's why I always say it's an amazing time to be a developer in any area now, because we have everything in a YouTube video, in a Udemy course.
Yeah.
Pretty much any resource you need is readily available. And with Twitter, and that is why I love Twitter, I can reach out to a lot of these content creators directly and get the exact answers that I'm looking for, or at least be guided to the resources that I need.
Yeah.
So if you're ever doubtful there, just reach out on Twitter.
Awesome. So hi, Yusuf. So he first wants to thank you for doing this live stream, and he's asking if you have any tips for people who want to get their first job as a full stack web developer.
Sure. So how do I want to approach this one? I have several rules. If you want to become a developer, I have 4 steps that I always suggest. The very first step is you have to have a very, very strong LinkedIn. 90 million users on LinkedIn are hiring managers, decision makers, and managers of teams. Why wouldn't you want to be popular in the area that they hang out? 41% of the world's millionaires, for example, utilize LinkedIn on a daily basis. People in upper management are there, so you need to have a strong LinkedIn profile to make you stand out to them. The second is the portfolio. The portfolio site does not, I repeat, does not need to be technical. It does need to be slightly eye-catching or appealing to a non-technical individual. Most of these hiring managers have never coded a day in their life, so just because you made it in React or Gatsby or whatever, they have no idea. They just know, oh, this looks decent. This person probably knows what they're talking about. The third now is your portfolio items. Your portfolio items are where you show your technical prowess and your ability to do things. So in those portfolio items, you're making your calculators and you're making your whatever projects that you have, but in the languages that you're trying to be hired in. So if you're trying to become a React developer, utilize React and things like that. And the fourth is a resume. You got to have a decent resume to make it through and at least hand it to them in the first interview. But those first 3 steps are the most important. The fourth one is the afterthought, to me at least.
Okay.
So if you do those, you'll get your first job.
I feel like you should make a video about this.
Probably. I talk all the time.
Yeah.
And so I tweet the same things, I feel like, because I feel like I've said this so many times, and then each time someone's like, oh, I didn't know this. It's like, I think I've said this so many times, but I will do something on this to try and help people out for sure.
Your tweets are so exciting. I feel like excited when I see Danny tweets.
For me, when I tweet, the way I approach my Twitter, and people ask me this all the time, for me, when I approach my Twitter, I'm literally writing my tweets. I've created someone in my mind. So I'm talking to someone somewhere about something. And I'm only making this tweet for that one person. But I'm very grateful that others are noticing it and enjoying it as well. So sometimes my tweets are very well received. Sometimes my tweets are very well hated. But, I try to find that common. And the other thing is I only believe in being honest to myself. So when I'm making these tweets, it's honesty for me. So just because someone doesn't like it, or just because maybe someone says, well, this is bad advice, that's fine. You don't have to like every single thing that I say, but if you find value in some of it, I'm humbled and grateful.
Yeah.
And the other thing is too, I love that I can approach all these geniuses around me, and then I get advice from them, and I just tweet that as well. Like if someone gives me like a quick hack, I'm like, okay, let me throw that out there for the whole world to find out. And so maybe sometimes it makes me feel a lot more smarter than what I really am. But, if I can share some knowledge in some capacity, I'm very grateful to do so.
Yeah, I think just in general, like people view content creators with this. Now, I don't want to say that you're not as smart, because you're smart, but people view content creators as being on the next tier of smart, like smarter than people who don't create content, even if they're at the same level.
So that's a really good point, and I love that. I don't think you need to be a genius in anything to write a blog article, to create a video, You're sharing what you know. And I will tell you this, every single senior developer that is an expert in something is a junior in another. That senior developer in C sharp is an absolute amateur when it comes to Node.js.
That's true.
Like you will be smart in one thing and dumb in another. And I don't like saying it like that, but it's to give that point that if you know something really well in CSS, share it. Who you don't know who you're helping. Do you know one of my most popular tweets is a VS Code thing that I thought everybody knew, and it was to select multiple fields of like the same item. So if you press like Control Shift F, Control Shift D, it selects all like items of that thing. And I shared that, and it was like 10,000 likes. And people were like, I've been looking for this. It's a simple little tip that can change someone's life. So you don't know by making that CSS gradient, for example, who you're helping by showing that. Every single day, one new person decides to code. You could be helping that person by sharing the knowledge that you've gone through thus far. But I will say, for me, I'm very comfortable in saying I'm not the smartest person in the room. Pretty much, I'm probably the dumbest person in most rooms, and I'm okay with that because what I lack in very, sheer intellect, I make up for like really good looks. But I also make up with my ability to want to soak up everything like a sponge.
Yeah.
I have no problem going up to someone that is much more intelligent than I am and saying, I don't know this. I want to know this. Explain it to me, and I will never bother you again about this subject. And I say this in interviews all the time. I might not be the smartest person that you find. I might not be, the most technical savvy. But what I am willing to do is problem solve on a level that no one can match. I may not know the answer now, but if you give me enough time to research it, I will come back with the correct answer. So that is what I do, I think, better than most. I'm willing to be wrong and find it out. And I say all the time, too, I could be right today and wrong tomorrow. It doesn't mean anything. What matters is that I'm willing to accept it. And with enough evidence, I will always change my opinion. I feel like we're evolving as humans, and that's the way I evolve. And I'm always willing to be wrong if that's what's necessary to be right.
Yeah, I think that's a great characteristic to have. And it really shows your humility as being able to admit, like, hey, I was wrong, and I'm just going to move on and still be positive about it. So we have a couple more questions. Oh, by the way, I forgot to give a shout out to Code Stacker. He's in the
Code Stacker. I love that guy.
Yeah, he's awesome. He has another YouTube channel, so if you haven't checked out Code Stacker, you should definitely check out his channel and all the tutorials and great content that he makes. So Sashi Kumar. Hi, Sashi. Do you think a college degree is required for an aspiring developer? I mean, I don't have a college degree. What about you, Danny?
If I went to college, they'd probably kick me out. So no, I don't have a degree either. I've always wanted to go to college. I did not have that luxury, and that is why I was working in gas stations, and I would bring up customers and fried chicken, and I decided to learn to code. Honestly, I started learning to code because of a rapper. I never knew this was possible. I thought coding was reserved for the PhDs and the rocket scientists of the world. I never even knew I was allowed to be in this space. Once I knew I was allowed to be here, nothing in the universe could have stopped me at that point. Nothing could have deterred me or distracted me. So no, you don't need a college degree. What you do is your interest to solve a problem, because I guarantee you are going to be presented with a problem every single day that you don't know how to solve, and it's just up to you at that point to figure it out. Like, I'll tell you right now, I just got a huge good word, but like a thank you, or what's the word I'm looking, appreciation, I suppose, from my boss. And he basically said, man, you're doing a great job. You solved a big problem, and it took me over a week to solve it. I knew zero about like SEO and metadata and all that stuff. Knew nothing about it. I probably learned more about SEO in a week than I care to ever describe, and I solved a problem that no one on the team could solve. So just know most of my job is literally not knowing how something works, and now it's my job to go figure it out. It's not really like, oh, go make this nav bar. It's the nav bar broke, so go figure out why. So that's majority of my job, and I think that's the majority of most people. So a degree is cool. I will never say don't go to college. I will never say don't get that education. I will say it is absolutely probable and possible to get to your dream without it.
Yeah. It's just a different path to the same destination, but
Absolutely.
regardless, you have to learn problem solving skills and all the other things that you talked about. So Ryan,
I got a big mouth. I'll keep running. If I go too far, just pull me back, and we'll be okay.
no, it's perfect. It's perfect. I'm kind of quiet, so it's a good balance.
There we go. We're balancing each other.
So Ryan Kirk asked, he said, I think that imposter syndrome can increase as time goes on due to rapid rate of technology change. That's true. Do you have any advice on how to best stay up to date with technologies? Or with the technologies you use?
That's a really good question.
Yeah, it is.
I wish I had a very direct answer to that, and the most common way that I stay up to date with technologies, honestly, is just talking to developers, and like they'll mention like, oh, did you check out this new feature? And then now I'm on Google checking out this new feature, because number one, I don't want to be like, oh, I'm a developer and I don't stay up to date on this stuff. But number two, it's almost impossible to be completely in the know on everything. And the other way that I stay, pretty much every day, I start my days around 4 o'clock in the morning. Within the first couple minutes, I'm usually looking around like programming subjects and topics, and Reddit, for example. I'll be on like the programming subreddits just to get a general idea of what's happened in the day or the past couple of days. But otherwise, unless something big happens, or even a conference, and I go to a lot of meetups. So, and I host a lot of meetups. So a lot of the times we'll get very qualified speakers in their subjects, and they'll discuss, like, for example, we just had a speaker not too long ago on RxJS. I knew absolutely nothing about it besides that it existed. And so that demo and that like 2 hour lesson that we were all a part of taught me a ton about it and the most up-to-date common practices. So by going to a local meetup, number one, you're networking, but number two, you're learning about everything. Number three,
Yeah.
you're able to meet local developers in your area that want to learn the same things. So stuff like that really helps stay up to date. And I always say, you're a byproduct of the people that you choose to keep around you. So if you keep phenomenal developers around you, you will become a phenomenal developer. You can't hang around a bunch of chefs and not pick up a recipe, right? So it's the same concept here. If you have a bunch of developers around you, you will pick up some tips, and of course, developers are going to talk about dev, so you'll pick up some ideas that way.
Yeah. And so you mentioned hosting meetups and how important they are, and you get to learn like the ArcJS meetup that you mentioned. So I know that one of the most important things from my experience was the time like before and after the talk started, because you get to meet people, like you said, learn about new technologies, kind of network a bit. But now that we're online, I mean, most countries or a lot of countries in the world, including the US where we both live, is pretty much still on lockdown. Like we're staying at home, we're having remote meetups. So how do you get that same level of networking and learning, like those raw discussions when we're all online now?
For me, I feel like, especially as someone that is, I know many, 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 many introverts. I have always said that I like to be the megaphone for the introvert. I'll be the extrovert for the introvert and amplify their accomplishments and help them out. And a lot of times when you go to a meetup, that is why I love meetups. People come there with the sole purpose of, I want to learn something, but I want to meet people in my community. With it being online, though, it's pretty much easier than ever to network if you want to. The problem is actually wanting it. And I know some people, they feel awkward. And what I try to do at the beginning of every meetup and at the end of every meetup, I always ask this question: what have you been working on recently? And anyone that wants to share can share. And not everyone, think about it, when you're sharing in a room full of, let's say, 100 people, 100 people now know who Gwen is if Gwen decides to talk about her website that she just made or her portfolio site or whatever it may be. Now you have all the eyes. Instead of having to meet 100 people one by one by
Yeah.
one, you just killed it with one stone throw, right? Same thing with online. Now, after you do that, you can start messaging people while the talk is going on, for example, or talking to people. I will say it's definitely not the whole social aspect like real life would be, where you're at a meetup and let's say you got pizza and you guys are eating pizza and talking. You're definitely losing that dynamic, but with everyone being one message away, one tweet away, one DM away, it's easier now more than ever to network if that's what your real goal is. And I will admit, for me, like meetups are all about the networking lesson. And I feel that when you're at a meetup, most instructors are giving you tips they normally talk about because they don't normally think about it. And so when you're in that private setting and people are throwing these questions at you and you're thinking on the fly, like now it really changes the dynamic versus a YouTube tutorial where it's very structured.
Yeah.
So I think those conversations really help to get new insight into things. And and I'll be completely honest, for me, my entire life changed because of meetups. Everything changed because of meetups. Meetups are the reason why I try to help people find jobs in tech. Meetups are the reason why I decided to find a job in tech. Meetups are like have given me so much, and that is why I'm so invested in giving back. And I will always say, if you want to change your career in tech, or if you want to go into tech, go to a meetup. I don't care where you are in the world, there's a meetup somewhere. And if there isn't one, start one. Because I started my meetups literally with 3 people, and now the last meetup we had in person before coronavirus is 155.
Wow.
So you can build an entire community starting with nothing if you're passionate about it.
Yeah. That's awesome. I feel like you need to build an online meetup or group for us all to join.
So we still do meetups. I do a meetup every 2 weeks. My group is called GDG Memphis, Google Developers Group Memphis.
Okay.
We're backed by Google, backed by Google Developers,
Nice.
sorry, and they provide resources. We're working on a huge meetup right now. We're going to have several guest speakers from Google, and it's going to be everything about Android 11 and mobile web dev. So I think that will be very, very, very valuable for anyone to come by and learn, ask questions. And I mean, if the speakers are from Google and the Android developer team, like, where else can you get more sound advice in what you're learning about, and career paths and things like that.
Yeah.
So highly, highly recommend that one. And we usually give away, like, I'm very big about learning resources, and it's hard now, especially since we don't have sponsors. When we had in-person meetups and before COVID, I had sponsors left and right. I was turning them down. I had too many. Now I can't find a single person, but I'm still very active in wanting to give learning resources to people. So I'm buying courses, things like that, books, and so if you're into trying to get a learning resource to help further your career, that could be definitely a great opportunity to try and get some.
Nice. Yeah, I'll definitely link any of those resources or meetups you mentioned in a comment or in the
Sure.
description below.
Yeah, and I'll go ahead and add this meetup for the Android 11 in the chat right here.
Okay.
So in case you guys want to go to that link, you can RSVP there. All of my meetups will always be 100% free. All of my conferences will always be 100% free. I will never, ever, ever charge someone to change their career or learn something in development.
That's awesome.
So, yeah, you will always have that luxury. I see a couple of familiar faces. Michael Liendo, if you're not
Yeah.
following him on Twitter, check him out. Love this guy. He's very intelligent and a phenomenal developer, and definitely check him out as well.
Yeah, I've spoken with him at conferences before.
Yeah, definitely highly recommend him.
Awesome. So Gopi, I think your name's, I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing this wrong, Gopi. He says, I know Angular and React, but I'm confused to choose between Java, which is a big opportunity, or Node, which is easy because he already knows JavaScript. So what should he use to become a full stack developer? Should he choose Java or Node for the backend?
So my answer to this is sometimes seen as awesome and sometimes seen as controversial, but this is my honest belief on what anyone should be doing. You need to inspect and check your local market on what is in demand because there's no point in you learning opportunities at. And I will give you is my own. I started learning Python. I actually enjoy Python. And I was learning Python for 4 months before I decided to start putting out job applications. And I realized Memphis has no Python jobs at all. And so I basically spent 4 months learning something that no one wants to hire for. Now, if I didn't have a family and I was single and even though I look like I'm still in my 20s, but if I was in my 20s, I could probably want to move to another location to possibly find a job. Well, I don't have that luxury. I have a wife and I have a son, and they're my world, and everything that I do is for them. I can't uproot my entire family because I decided to learn Python. So I immediately started learning Java, and Java is not even a big language in Memphis, but there's only like 10 companies that utilize it. But the 10 companies that I wanted worked in Java. I put all my eggs in one basket. I do not really recommend that. Otherwise, this wouldn't be like a rags to riches story. It'd be like a rag story. Success there. But, find out what's in demand. Search your job listings. See what comes. See what goes. Spend a couple weeks doing that. And you will find out very quickly, like, oh, this is the language that everybody wants because this comes and goes. And for example, Python, maybe it sits. I will say, speaking statistically, Python is the number one in demand language, at least in America. It is also, it isn't, I don't know if it's the highest paying, I know it's up there. The second most in demand is Java, and the third is JavaScript. But that means nothing when you're talking about your local area. In my local area, C Sharp is the number one in demand language, .NET.
Yeah.
If you know .NET, like you can get pretty much get a job anywhere within this town. And Python you won't find any. So really look in your local area and find out what's good for you. If and I will say the other reason why I chose Java, if worst came to worst, Java is one of the only languages that I've seen within like a 300-mile radius of my home. A ton of there will take you in if you know Java as a junior, as opposed to, for example, .NET, where they're like, no, experience talks and walks.
That's interesting.
So weigh that in comparison as well.
So Sassy, he says, I wasted 5 years going to get my engineering degree. That wasn't a waste. That was good.
It wasn't a waste at all.
So Yusuf says, are algorithms and data structures important to being a web developer?
Man, why are you guys giving me questions that get me in trouble on Twitter? This question got me in trouble the other day. But to me, the 99.9% of the time, you will only use algorithms and data structures in an interview. And that is about it. You will really not utilize that on the job. With that also being said, I'm sure there's fields that in tech that you will utilize it.
Okay. I think,
but for the average company, they want to take Google style interviews and they put out dollar store product. Like it doesn't make sense the way they interview people. And I really hate the interview process in tech because I feel like it's almost made to be gamed. Like you need to study strictly for the interview to pass this interview and utilize none of that in real life.
Yeah.
I can tell you right now, I've probably never utilized a data structure in work at all.
Well, so algorithms and data structures, I think you're referring to like the complex ones, like when they give you a two-dimensional array or a matrix problem. Oh, how many pieces are connected in this matrix? Correct. And you have to implement all these algorithms. So Danny's not referring to simple algorithms. If you look on Free Code Camp, there is an algorithms and data structures section, which is like basically learning, objects and some basic algorithms, which are just step-by-step problem solving that you need to learn. But Danny's referring to what most people refer to as algorithms and data structures,
Yes.
which is these super complicated problems that they give you in interviews and then you never use that knowledge again.
Thank you for clarifying that. That is exactly what I mean. I'm not talking about, the basic stuff that you're going to utilize in your career. I'm talking that require, 5 people to answer, but you're by yourself. And it's situations that you're never really going to come across unless if you're doing like high level of programming, I'm sure there's some way that you're going to utilize this because you didn't make it up for nothing. But for the most part, especially in web dev, no, you're not going to utilize, things like that.
Yeah, so I'm skipping around here a little. So Kevin just posted a comment. Data structures and algorithms are used in the backend, though. I mean, just like I said, to a certain extent, like the basic problems, like you need to know how to do some basic optimizations, a little bit about, I guess, even how O notation works in that you want to avoid unnecessary looping and stuff like that. But overall, like the type of problems that Danny was talking about, you really don't use them in the back end either. I've been to a lot of interviews where they use complex, they ask me these complicated questions and stuff that I never even do in the back end or the front end or anywhere else. So I guess it's kind of hard to talk about these two different groups, like these complicated, outrageous algorithms and then basic algorithms like problem solving that you use for learning problem solving, I guess.
Right.
Yeah, if that makes sense. Yeah. Hi, Nobodies. So Nobodies was actually my first person to interact with me in my live stream. So he's been in these chats a long time. So it's good to see you. He says even the back end hard ones are quite rare. That's true.
Yeah. It really depends. And I think a lot of times, even when it comes to like back end, because I'm a back end engineer. So, I'm full stack. I do both. Lately, I've been doing a lot of CSS work for whatever reason. I don't know why. But I do both. And I can tell you hands down on back end, we're not utilizing some of those crazy complex things. And it's nowhere in our code base. And our code base is massive. I work for a company. We did over $1 billion last year. We're on track to do $5 billion by 2025, and that's nowhere in the code base. So just letting that be known. And we're a huge company. So if we're not utilizing it, I guarantee you Sally's hair salon is not utilizing it in her web dev projects either.
Yeah. So Nabil Parker brought up a good point. Everybody's talking about imposter syndrome and a lot of advice is given, but what about the people who struggle with procrastination?
People that struggle with procrastination. So I don't necessarily believe in procrastination.
What do you mean? You don't believe it doesn't happen?
So if I were to ask you, hey Gwen, tomorrow morning, meet me at 4 o'clock in the morning, I'll give you $1 million in cash. Would you meet me at 4 o'clock in the morning?
Yeah.
Because it's important to you. When you make something important, you will move mountains and rivers to get to it. So when you procrastinate, it's not that you're procrastinating, you haven't made it important in your life. Like, it doesn't really matter if I get this done. Once you prioritize something, you will get it done. That is why I'm a big advocate of you have to make very big goals. And they need to be so big that you get excited about them. Like, I genuinely hate mornings. But I wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Really?
I love what it gives me, but I hate that time. And when I wake up in the morning, I have a big goal. I would wake up like, oh my God, here we go again. But I'm excited to know that I'm going to get 3 hours that I dedicate as me time because my family wakes up at 7. So from 4 to 7, that is Danny time. And I'm now able to work on my goals that I have. Between my computer right here and my TV, I write all my goals down on a piece of paper and I put them on my wall. That way I always see them. And so, for example, if I'm going to slack off and start watching Netflix and I'm going to binge watch like 10 episodes or something, right? I'll see that go. I'm like, all right, did I do enough to justify this 10 hours? If so, fantastic. But if I didn't, maybe I'll still take my downtime, just watch 2 episodes, and I'll spend the other 8 hours trying to get closer to where I want to be. But if I'm in a comfortable place, cool. But that procrastination only comes from not being prioritized. When you make something a priority, nothing in the universe will stop you from getting there.
Yeah. I think that's true in most cases where it's not an actual disorder like ADHD or some other
Right. I mean,
type of disorder
yeah.
that inhibits executive function, I guess. But yeah, I know what you mean. For most people, it's probably, I don't want to say motivation, but just like you said, that you need to make things as important and prioritize them.
Like, here's a really good example that I'll give you as well. There's been many times where it's like, man, I don't want to go do this right now, but I go and do it because I know how important that thing is. Like work. How many times have you been like, oh man, I don't want to go to work today, but you still made it there on time, right? Because it's an important thing for you. Otherwise, you can get a coffee cup and get on the side of the road and try and make some money that way. You need, when it's important, when it's a priority, you will absolutely make it happen no matter the feeling in that moment. Work is a priority. We have no way around that. So you go and get that done. I'm not saying you need to be one of these people, and I kind of hate that whole like, oh, you need to go, 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 work, no matter what. But I am saying you need to have a balance. If something is important, get it done.
That's good advice.
And obviously, if you have something blocking you, like ADHD or anything like that, that's a completely different conversation. But limiting factor, then it's just something that you haven't prioritized.
I like that. I don't think I've heard quite that take before.
Yeah, I'm very big, and I'll be honest. I love analyzing ideas, and I love learning about people and how they respond to ideas. So I've had countless conversations with people to come up with the ideas that I have, and I've seen, certain little tweaks that we can do to somebody and produce XYZ outcome. So that is why, from all these years, and I'm grateful to have been having this idea for a long time, and especially all those years of working in the public, I could see what was a direct result of doing something.
That's awesome. So I guess, sorry, Eunice, but we lost your question in the chat. He says, I'm lost as tech keeps coming out. I want to learn everything, but I can't. So I don't master anything and I go sad, but I have strong math background, but I don't feel like data science. I feel that I'm not using all my skills. Do you get what he said?
No, but let me find this here.
It's Eunice. He has kind of an orange icon
Orange icon.
with a
Message retracted.
person, I think.
Should we learn Doc? That's not him. I don't. It must be far up.
It's a little ways up.
So, from what I gather, from what I heard, he has what I like to call shiny object syndrome, where something is shiny and you jump towards it. And I know people have similar problems. What I will say, I would rather you focus and be in one thing than being below mediocre 10 things. And then when you have base in that one thing, you can now start picking up everything around it. For example, I know many languages, but my main language is Java. My strength, is there. Then I picked up Angular. Then I picked up C. All these languages around it to complement my use with that. Make your base and then grab many things to complement it. And here's the other thing, and I think many people don't realize this. When you know the fundamentals, the ins and outs, and the values of one language, it is significantly easier to pick up another. It is not like you're going to go through the same uphill battle again. For example, if you learn Java and now you're like, well, I kind of want to check out C#. there's so many similarities and patterns that make it easier to pick up. But if you're really weak in Java, you're going to be really weak when you try to pick up C sharp. Everything is going to be uphill. Focus on one and then start picking up the languages around it to complement it.
That's true.
Don't stop getting distracted. Pick the language that you're strongest in, and this strong language of yours now answer these questions.
You sound so much like a motivational speaker.
You know what's weird? And I say this all the time. Like, I never planned to like go on these rants or like to talk like this, but like when the passion builds up, it just comes out. And I never. It's never the intention. It just happens that way.
I think
I'm glad it happens.
That same passion and voice comes out in your tweets too. It's like I can hear it.
I think several people feel that way, and I will admit probably 90% of those tweets, when you see like caps lock, that's literally me like, you need to do this, and then it goes back to the lowercase. I do like playing with my tones when I talk and things like that, and I think it helps emphasize certain things that I'm trying to get across. But to answer your question, Eunice, I would say focus on the first language and then work on the rest later.
Yeah. Okay. Ashisha asks, in one of Danny Sir tweets, he talked about how constantly there is need to learn needed stack as per company's requirement, but how would this be easier for a newbie who just started out? So when you start a new job, you need to learn that particular company's stack. How can you make this easier as a newbie, I guess?
So I'm going to answer that question that way, but it could also be regarding how I decided to learn Java and Angular for the companies that I was trying to get hired for. I don't necessarily fully understand this question, but we're going to answer it the ways that we interpreted it. So if a company hires you and you don't know their stack and they're like, hey, you know React, well, we need you to know Angular. Isn't it really a great incentive to learn it when you get a paycheck?
Yeah.
If anything, that makes that journey so much easier than as opposed to like, hey, I'm not getting paid for this. I still have to have a full-time job working at a restaurant, and I need to learn how to code. So I would say approach that. For me, Angular has some very phenomenal documentation that you can learn off of. React has great documentation as well. And I know some people are like scared by the docs. Don't be. Docs, depending on the language, I can totally see Java's docs being daunting beyond belief. So it is tough using Java's documentation. But like Angular, React, they went all out to make this very beginner friendly. You will make you'll follow their steps and make an application. Like in Angular, I believe it's called Tours of Hero. So you'll make something and you'll give like a real life usage out of it. So don't worry too much about that. And now, if it's the question of learning a company's stack to get a job there, I just researched the companies that I wanted to get hired on by, and the companies that I was really looking at. Like there was a common denominator: Java, Angular, etc. But the other thing is, I'm very, very big on networking. I'm also very, very big on I hate filling out job applications. So I use my network that I've created to leverage that, and I show people how to do that all the time. But I'll cold message developers that I don't know and people that work at companies that I don't know on LinkedIn, because LinkedIn is this magical place where people love talking about their job. If I were to message somebody on like Twitter or Facebook and be like, hey, I found out that you work at XYZ company, can you tell me about it? They're like, what are you doing, you weirdo? How did you find out where I work? On LinkedIn, they're like, sure, I got Employee of the Month, and I got all these awards, and we work in Java. LinkedIn is this crazy place where they're completely comfortable talking about that stuff. So that is how I ended up learning the languages used at the companies. I just started messaging people that work there and said, what are you working? As a beginner, can you give me any tips? Where can I approach this from? And that started a natural conversation. And I mean, honestly, I still talk to a lot of those developers all the time, and I see them around town at events. So just by making that introduction, you've made someone that you'll talk to for years on end.
Yeah, that's really good advice. It definitely, like the different types of companies, and I made a video about this too, but if you go to a large company, a medium company, small company, a consulting company, all those different companies use a lot of similar things per type of company. So it's really good, like Danny said, to find out what the different types of companies are using. And let's say that you want certain things from the company, then you're going to pick like, okay, I want my life to be like this. These are my goals. So I need to work at this type of company, which aligns with my goals. So then you find out, okay, at that type of company, these are the stacks that they normally use. So I'm going to learn this stack. And from there, it's good to pick, what tools or technologies you're going to work in.
So let me ask you this, Gwen. When you were learning, like, what was your goal at that time? What did you have on your mind that you wanted to do then?
So, I had a couple different goals. One of them was to, I guess, I had a goal of having a stable career, and because I was kind of in the same boat as you somewhat, like I kept switching jobs, working at dead-end jobs, traveling around a little bit, and it was very stressful. It was a lot of work, especially when I got into management, low pay. I felt like I had learned all the social skills that I'd wanted to learn from those jobs, and I needed to get out. So that was a big goal. I needed that career change for my life goals, where I wanted to be in life, and I had always wanted to be a coder, and I kind of through my research and stuff, I knew that coding was going to get me to be able to be where I wanted to be in life, including being able to travel, work remote, and all those other things that I wanted. Yeah, I'm not very good at winging stuff, so if this doesn't make sense, then...
No, it does.
Yes.
So what made you want to start, like, teaching people how to code and things like that?
Yeah, so I've always I've always liked teaching, which is weird because I don't like talking to people too much, but I do like teaching. So it was mostly because when I was starting out, so back in I would say the time I really started learning to code to be a professional was 2014, 2015. I was learning, and then I got my first job in 2015. And I had so many people that just helped me. I wasn't paying them. I wasn't I wasn't giving them anything really, except maybe whatever satisfaction they got from teaching me. People like Quincy Larson, who started Free Code Camp, he wasn't making any money back in 2015, but he was so nice, so helpful when I wanted to start a local group and find other people. So all these people gave me so much in the beginning, and I couldn't give anything back to them really. So that was really what started it, making me want to also give back to the community, because I know how much it meant to me when I was starting out and how much it helped me, especially people, because I was so shy at meetups. I met a couple people and they would introduce me to other people. And even if I asked them, hey, I'm too nervous to talk to this recruiter, can you go and introduce us? So they would go and introduce me. So there were so many people like that. Like Jared, who normally comes on my live streams, he was one of those introducers who just let me meet so many people in the community. So yeah, I guess after so many people helping me and how good it made me feel, I wanted to also give back and, let other people have the same feeling. So that's why I've also been running meetups it's been 5 years exactly
That's
this
awesome.
month.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you ever want to do like a meetup collab, let me know and we can try.
Yeah, we should definitely do that.
I will also say I'm a huge Quincy Larson, and I was able to do a meetup with Quincy Larson and Kent C. Dodds. And like I've always had Quincy Larson at like this pedestal, pinnacle position. And when he came to the meetup, I tried to be like really smooth. In reality, I was like, "Oh my God, it's Quincy!" Like I was so excited to actually make that happen, because it's because of him. Literally making that website is how I learned the very basics of HTML and CSS. Like, I mean, he has created a phenomenal platform. I will forever be indebted to him to some degree, and I will always, always, always try to popularize this platform in one way or another. And how many individuals do you really know that wake up in the morning and are like, all right, I'm going to work endlessly on something that is going to cost me money?
Yeah.
Like Not that I'm gonna make money from this. Not that I'm about to, go buy a Benz. It's like, no, I'm not going to afford anything, and I'm still gonna eat, very cheap food, and I'm gonna be living in, like not no lap of luxury to create a platform that is used by millions.
Yeah.
Like,
Even now, he makes
it,
less than you or me,
yeah,
still running the whole company and everything. It's phenomenal what he's done, what he's given up for it.
100%. I'll always support him for that, and he knows, and I think everyone knows that if there's ever anything that I could ever do for someone like him, moments notice it'll be done. Won't even think about it.
Yeah, I agree with that. All right, I totally forgot, or I lost track of which question was which now.
Oh, sorry. That's my fault. I told you, big mouth. You need to stop me. All
Yeah.
right. Let's see.
Um. Oh yeah. Some. Oh. Did I already answer Nabil's question? Oh no, that wasn't a question. Gopi asked again, is it good to be code? It's great to be code. And be a developer till the end of IT profession, or should I follow a path like, it's a very individual question. I don't know if you have a good answer for that.
That is extremely individual. It depends on what you want to do. And I don't think anybody can ever answer that for you. That's like saying, should I be a developer? That is completely up to you. I will say I'm a very firm believer in you can be whatever you want to be. You can create at least the mindset that you can reach XYZ position. You may have to fight some external biases and things that are holding you back and people that are trying to stop you, but it may be a long road, it may be a bumpy road, but you can absolutely reach whatever pinnacle point that you want to reach. Now, if you're just a developer, I will honestly say I don't know how I will continue my future without code being some part of it. It's so weird. I don't know how this attracts me the way it does. And I think, a lot of people get into code for various reasons, whether it's financial, whether it's enjoyment, or maybe a mixture of the two. Even if I became like a CEO or a CTO, there would still be ways for me to touch code point, because that is the enjoyment that I get out of it. I love the table throwing, problem solving situations that I find myself in sometimes, that they drive me insane, but I enjoy it so much that I wouldn't want it any other way. What's funny is I'm teaching my son how to code right now.
How old is he?
And we're using 7. So just
It's a good age.
basics. Yeah, I mean, I my belief is I think everyone should know how to code to some degree, not because of the goal of, oh, I want to land a job in tech, but it should be, why wouldn't you want to understand the functionality of something that you touch 90% out of your day? Like, we have a basic understanding of our body, right? If I'm sick, I know either A, I need to go to a doctor, I'm not going to make it, or B, I can ride this out. Or if I'm driving my car, I know, oh, that's a weird sound, I need a specialist. So why is the extent of my knowledge on a computer opening up Google Chrome and going to youtube.com and watching cat videos? Like, why don't I understand, or why understand why this laptop even costs $2,200, or why is my phone costing me $1,500? What is RAM? It's all buzzwords until you put something behind it. So for me, I think it's very important to at least understand why these machines operate the way they do, and if you do, then you can have a further appreciation and functionality usage of that. So for me, I'm teaching my kid how to code, not because I think he's going to become a developer. I don't know what he's going to become. He's 7 years old. He wants to become a Power Ranger for all I know. But, I think it's good to have this basic skill set in there to at least understand what is a for loop, what is an if statement, what's a do while situation. Like, these are things that you need to know.
It's just logic.
To be honest, exactly. And I speak at prisons all the time to prisoners learning how to code, and I say the reason why I love this is, even if you don't land a job in tech, if you could become a freelancer, you could start doing your own thing. But even, let's say nothing happens for you and you go work in construction. Well, now from that attribute, you may say, well, I need to knock down this wall. I used to work construction. I'll tell you, we just literally started sledgehammering the wall. As long as we were told, like, this is a good wall, boom, knock it down. Now I would approach it saying, well, is this a load-bearing wall? If it's load-bearing, if I hit it at the corner, down a little bit easier, then if it were to hit it from the center where all the mass is, or maybe I would approach it from this opening right here where maybe a little bit weaker. I'm approaching this in a completely different way than here's sledgehammer, here's wall, make them connect. That is the reason why I love tech, because you approach problems in a way most industries do not. And even if you decide to go into accounting, for example, you are now having a very unique solving set of skills to take into that profession with you. I forgot what the original question was.
Me too. I was just trying to think of
it. But, tech, yeah, do it.
So Siddharth, well, let me get to Deepak Dre, because I think last time we didn't get to answer it, or something happened with his question last time. He says, please suggest which stack to learn. Oh yeah, because last time we were only talking about, maybe I'm getting everything confused right now, but last time we were only talking about soft skills, and this time we've kind of ventured into 100 different areas, so.
Yeah.
So
I told you that was going to happen, but yeah.
So Deepak asked which stack to learn. That kind of goes along with the answer what you said earlier about.
Yeah. In case you weren't around for it earlier, it was research the jobs in your area, get on whatever job boards that you have, Indeed, or depending on your country, you may have something different. Get on those job boards and watch them for 3 to 4 weeks. You will quickly learn like which jobs were there yesterday because you've been through it a couple times, and you'll skip them, but you'll see which jobs go quickly, which jobs come in quickly, and if they're having the same languages and they're going and coming, but then you're going to see the languages that stick, like Python has been sitting forever. That means no one's really hiring for that, or they're being very selective about the candidates. Find out what's going. And I had a comment earlier I wanted to address, and I'm glad I remember this. It said like all the are asking for like 1 to 3 years experience for a junior. Let me tell you something. If you match 50% of the requirements, apply. If you know the language that they're asking for, apply. I don't care what languages that, like how much experience they want. I don't care about any of that. The only thing I say is if they're specifically saying senior, don't apply then. But I can tell you, I turned down 6 jobs before accepting my job that I have as my dream job. And those 6 jobs, I did not match any of the requirements. Those 6 jobs all wanted degree holders. I didn't have it. Those jobs wanted someone that knew the entire universe in programming, and I only knew a very select little channel. Apply if you match 50%. Worst case scenario, they say no.
Yeah.
Best case scenario, you just got the job. Or at the very least, you will have a conversation, and you can try to prove your value in that conversation to get that job. One thing I just need a chance, please. Don't go in with a begging mindset. If no one likes a beggar, no one likes someone that's going to beg for something. Go in there with a value mindset. I am valuable. I will bring value to this conversation. I will bring value to this team. But if you go in begging, they're going to turn you away. Be valuable. If you bring value, they're bringing a checkbook. It's as simple as that. Bring value and you'll get the job. Don't worry about how much time they're asking for. Unless they're asking for 10 years, then that's a lost cause at that point. But if they're asking for 1 to 3, I had 0 and I had plenty of offers. And I'm not saying that to be braggadocious. I'm just saying what you can do in an interview will determine where you land.
Yeah. And especially if you get to meet them first at a meetup or something, they get to start liking you. That's a good way in.
Yeah. And that's why I'm so big about networking, because I hate applications. So I talk to hiring managers, recruiters all the time, like especially like on LinkedIn when they list a job listing. I think most of the time you'll see the person that listed it. So I'll send them a message, and normally my messages are along the line. And please, anyone in this chat, do not send a message that says, hey, how you doing? I get those messages all day long, and I just skip them too, so I know who they are. You're not creating a conversation or interaction with them. You need to go in with a specific mindset and draw, saying, oh, I saw that you just posted that you're looking for a junior developer. Well, that's fantastic, because I have these 3 qualifications and these 3 attributes that would be perfect on your team. X, Y, Z. I would love to have a conversation. Give them direct, concise information. Let it pique their interest. They'll now check out your profile. Make sure your profile is balling, and if it's not, check out the videos that I've been working on with these hiring managers, and where they specifically show you what they're looking for and fix that on your profile, so that way you're matching in these searches that they're doing. And now you've got a situation that you can control, as opposed to filling out applications with 1,000 other people, and now you're falling in between the cracks. Because the ATS software, I'll tell you, it sometimes kicks out very qualified candidates because you're not matching certain key.
Yeah.
So if we can fix your LinkedIn profile and fix the way you message people, you're a step ahead of the game.
Yeah, definitely. I can say so much about that software and how basically there's a very large company. This is one example. Very large company near where I live. I tried to apply online. I got auto-rejected by the software. Immediately I got rejected because I didn't have a college degree on my profile. And then I go to meetups and they are trying to recruit me for the same job that I get rejected for online. So, yeah, you have to talk to people.
Funny is, so on Indeed, for example, a lot of times I ask you qualifying questions before you even submit the application, like, do you have a degree? Do you have this years of experience? And I would apply for all these jobs that I knew I could get, and I was getting none of them. And not even a phone call. Like, forget getting the job. Like, acknowledgement that I existed didn't happen. And I was at a meetup with a recruiter where they're like, oh, yeah, we put that there to pre-screen before the ATS. So it'll automatically kick you out and we won't even see the application. So I said, really? So I started answering yes to all of that, right? And then I would get a phone call and they'd be like, hey, I'm looking over your resume. Like, maybe you left it out. Like, where's your degree? I was like, oh, I don't have a degree. Like, well, then why did you say yes that you did? I was like, oh, you wouldn't have called me if I said yes. If I told you anything else besides what you wanted to hear, you wouldn't have even read anything. And I can tell you for two of the jobs in particular that I was offered, they wanted a master's degree.
Wow. Master's
if you can
degree
bring your
in
value,
coding.
if you can prove that value, they will absolutely call you.
Yeah. So we missed one question. Nabil Parker a while ago asked, I have big goals, but the small things are the small bumps that bring me down. These goals seem so far away that it's hard to imagine I'll reach them at any time. How do I help myself with that?
So don't stop. Whatever you do, don't stop. I don't care how slow you're going. I don't care how fast you're going. Don't stop. If you stop, the only guarantee that I have is that your dream in tech dies. Because you stopped. If you stop, it dies. That's the equation. Stopping equals death. If you keep going, even at the pace of a turtle, your possibility and your dream in tech is still alive. So just keep going no matter how slow. One great example that I give, I work with someone who, it took him 6 years to become a software engineer. It took me significantly less time. But both of our titles are software engineer. His title took 6 years to become an engineer. It's software engineer.
Yeah.
Our paychecks are the same. Our perks are the same. So it doesn't necessarily matter how long it takes you to reach your destination as long as you get there. So it may take you a year. It may take you 2 years. It may take you 3 years. Whatever it is, what matters is that you got there, you made your dream happen, and you feel that you want. So keep going, no matter how slow. Don't stop. Get discouraged. Get back up. Here's one thing that I always say to get into a fight, right? If you know, no matter what, this fight is going to happen. Instead of avoiding it, get in the middle. And I'm not saying this for you to go outside and start going.
Danny's saying get in the middle of a fight.
But what I'm saying is, if you're going to be scared and you freeze, by the way, if you punch someone like that, something really wrong with you. You shouldn't be punching someone that's scared like that. But if you punch someone and you get punched, and then you realize, okay, that hurt, but I didn't die, I didn't break, and now I can fight back and keep going and fighting for what I want, then you can achieve what you want. Take the first leap. Don't be afraid of it. It's not going to break you or end you. But what may end up happens with other fighters. You've been in so many fights that now you become, and you can persevere long. So sometimes being afraid of something will hurt more than the actual situation itself. Like, I can tell you from experience, I've been so afraid of being in fights, but when I was actually in the moment that I'm supposed to be afraid of, I had no fear. Like I was nervous and anxious before getting into that altercation, and then when I was in there, I was in this moment like, hey, we're here, something's going to happen. But the moment that I should be the most terrified, there's nothing there. So either you can build up this fear in you that holds you back, or you can go into that situation and enjoy it as much as possible.
Yeah, hopefully you're not still fighting a lot.
No,
Okay.
no, no, no.
Okay.
We're talking about, child years. We're not talking any time recent. I'm a good kid now. I'm a
Yeah,
good
I
kid.
assumed that. All right. Oh, Matthew Albright's in the chat. So Matthew is actually, he's my first coder coworker, I guess. He helped me get my first dev job. He was a friend of a friend who got me an interview at his company. So I started working there, and that's really where I first got to practice code for a company, put it on my resume, and then from there my career kind of took off.
Well, you know what they say about Matthew Albright?
What?
He's all right.
That's hilarious.
Cheesy joke. I don't know.
Danny says you're all right.
Myself up. There we go.
All right. So Matthew says, how can communication and understanding scope help fight imposter syndrome?
How can communication and understanding of scope?
Yeah.
And fight imposter syndrome? I would guess back to that main situation with imposter syndrome, it's the fear of being exposed and the fear of how you're going to react to a situation. So if your imposter syndrome is not knowing, communicating that and getting answers, you're already fighting that at that point. Don't be afraid to some degree to vocalize your doubts, your issues, because I can tell you one question with one answer can save you an hour or two of research. So, and I'm the type of person, and I'm known for this at my company. Well, I'm not known for it now since we're all working from home. But when we're at work, I'll literally go grab somebody and present this problem saying, hey, I don't know how to solve this. And I can waste 3 hours researching this, or we can figure this out right now and go on from there. And I think most people are afraid to expose that they don't know something. You will never, ever, ever know everything. Get comfortable with that idea. If you become comfortable with that idea, you can find your answers a lot quicker. So I'll always be willing to make sure, the whole world knows I'm not the smartest person, but I will get what I need to get out of that situation. So hopefully that helps.
Yeah. Also, I don't know if you caught it, but we talked quite a bit about imposter syndrome at the beginning, where Danny was sharing his deep knowledge about the subject and crashing prod and how he doesn't care about that anymore.
Yeah, I've made my share of mistakes. And what I always say, and I forgot who told me this because I didn't come up with this one, but when you cost your company money, they've just paid to train you. Why would they get rid of that training, right?
Yeah.
So, for example, if you cost them, I'm not saying go do this, by the way, please don't. But if you find yourself in a situation where you cost them, an entire database that cost them like $10,000, they just paid $10,000 in training you not to do that ever again. So it comes with the territory, and you're always going to have backups of things. You're always going to have, ways to get that information back, at least if you work at a somewhat capable company. So don't be too afraid to experiment, and you're supposed to have countermeasures in place as well. So if you've just exposed the company flaw, well, guess what?
It's not just your fault. Yeah. So he asked about understanding scope. So I guess that's understanding how big the problem is, being able to break it down. This kind of goes into what we talked about at the beginning, where you said a lot of it is just fear.
Yeah, well, what I always say about scope and things like that is really breaking down the motions of anything. Because it's pretty simple to say, well, I need a website. That's a simple sounding idea. And then you start breaking it down, well, I don't just need a website. I need my header. I need my buttons to do this. I need a hover effect on those buttons. I need a transition. I need a content section. I need an image section. I need a footer. I need separate pages. Now that website has become, okay, we've got 700 tasks. talking about an idea, visualizing an idea. I'm a big, so I have notebooks all around me. I'm very big. I like to write it down before I start like coding it or creating it, because nothing is worse than actually getting into that point of making something and realize, oh, I missed this entire midsection right here. Um, so I know a lot of people like Figma and they can do that as well. I'm not the best at Figma. I do utilize it sometimes, but I'm more into, let me quickly draw 10 minutes what I'm planning to do, and I can always reference that back. And I'm the same way with big problems. If I'm facing a problem that I don't know how to handle, I write it out. I have like boards all around me and notebooks. My wife thought I was insane when I bought this big whiteboard, and she's like, "If you don't use that within a couple weeks, like I'm throwing it away." I can honestly tell you, I probably use that once to twice a day to write out ideas to make sure I'm visualizing things correctly. So
Nice.
I'm big about writing things out.
Yeah, that's definitely helpful. So some of the people in the chat, infographics, they're trying to pressure you to start a YouTube channel. So you already have one, you're just not active, right?
Yeah, so I have a YouTube channel, youtube.com/dthompsondev, same as all my social media. And so I questions and I've been working out ideas on that right now, because what I normally do in my community is try to help people land jobs. So right now, I'm doing the same things that I normally do in person with people around me. But I don't know why I didn't think about this a long time ago. But now I'm trying to do this for everyone else. Work on your LinkedIn's, work on your resume. Every tips. One I'm working on is having mock interviews with actual interviewers in a real thing where the candidates can come in, we record the entire thing, and you show like what they're doing right, what they're doing wrong, but we're not going to interrupt the interview. We're going to let it go like normal, and then do like a play-by-play afterwards with the interviewer, basically looking what they were looking for, what was a strong answer, what was a weak answer, and hopefully that will help people become a lot more stronger in their interviews.
I just posted a link to your channel so people can find it.
Awesome. Bye, Code Stacker. He has to go. So great guy. Definitely check out his channel.
Yeah. So we missed some questions up at the top. Man, this has been an hour and a half. I told Danny before this, I was like, it's hard to talk more than an hour, but then he's like, no, I can talk for 10 hours. So if you don't mind, could we spend a few more minutes?
This is the Gwen show. I'm just here to be a part of it.
Thanks. So I'm going to go over a couple more of these questions.
Sure.
Let me try to find it. So how are
someone's eyes were sweating.
Someone's what?
Nabil Parker wrote, "My eyes are sweating."
Yeah, I didn't understand what that means.
But it's like a way you say that you don't like, my eyes are sweating.
Oh, okay. Why are you crying during the interview?
A passionate.
One of your passionate talks.
Probably.
That's funny.
Yeah.
There was something. So, how are job offers and development now with the pandemic in comparison with before? Has the job market changed at all?
I'm very big about being blunt instead of like giving you an answer that you want to hear. Honestly, it is tough. I'm not gonna sugarcoat that for you. 30 million Americans lost their jobs during this pandemic, and I can tell you right now, so last year I helped 44 people land their first jobs in tech. I was very focused on beating that year. I'm nowhere close now because of this. I was out in March, my traction was phenomenal. After that, you can forget about it. Like this month, I've helped 0. Last month, I helped 2. It's when you have senior developers that have lost their jobs, and to just finally get a paycheck in something, they're accepting lower mid-level developer, and they're taking lower pay just to get, keep food coming in and putting it on the table. It's harder. It's just natural with the climate, and it's unfortunate. So understand there's a lot more competition in whatever you're looking for right now. When this all clears up, I'm sure it will go away. But there are major companies that have gone on hiring freezes, and the real problem is Everyone is in the same situation. Nobody knows what's happening right now. Nobody knows. No one knows how the economy is going to bounce back. No one knows, if we're going to hit a recession because of this. No one knows. And so everyone's operating from this state of, I don't know what tomorrow's going to be. I don't know if tomorrow the stock market's going to tank. I don't know anything. Everything is unknown. So, and I can't blame them for that. We can't force anyone to hire right now. We can't force anyone to be restrictive. LinkedIn right now by itself is about to drop 6. There are no job listings. Like, there's no traction. It's unfortunate, and it will bounce back. Of course, it's going to bounce back. The economy is like, I always compare it to a set of lungs, right? It will inflate and it will deflate. Like, it's going to be heaves and hoes. It's going to be ins and outs. Every decade we have at least one recession. So there's always going to be a correction. And right now this may be that time. So I would say do not let that deter you from something. And I think a lot of people lose sight of that. Especially a lot of beginners or people trying to jump into the job market, understand something. When you go to get a degree, that is a 4-year process to have a piece of paper that now qualifies you for certain jobs, right?
Yeah.
Learning how to code for 6 months is a very quick process. So don't get deterred when you've been doing this for 6 months and you're like, well, there's no jobs. You've only been at this as a 6-month test. Give it a little bit of time. How can you be strong in something if you only get that little bit of time to push through? Maybe it takes you a year, maybe it takes 2 years, maybe whatever time it takes. Don't let that discourage you. Some people get a master's degree just to get a job in what they want. That's 6 years.
Yeah.
Like, stop putting these insane time constraints on yourself. That is why I hate answering the question, how long did it take you to land a job in tech? I hate that, because now, if it took me a year and it takes you 2, are you saying your 2 years is like garbage or not acceptable? No. Like, it doesn't matter how quickly that door opens for somebody. So don't compare that situation with anyone.
Yeah, I definitely agree. There's another question. This is another technology question. Someone asked, or Vince asked, does having only a MERN stack can give
Clients, like,
anything?
Your tool doesn't matter. And I'll always say, you're a developer regardless of your tool. I don't even care if you're using, a headless CMS situation. Like, I don't care what you have as a tool. You can make phenomenal websites with just HTML and CSS. My portfolio site that led me to all my job offers was HTML and CSS and nothing else. And the only dynamic aspect, it wasn't dynamic, it was the illusion of being dynamic, was CSS animations. Like, that's it. Like, there was nothing on that page that changed, but the icons would ease in and ease out and stuff like that. Just HTML and CSS. Like, you can make something great with that and charge for that. MERN, Java, whatever. It only matters what you can get a paycheck for. So if your job market is anti-MERN, then you've really hurt yourself in a big way. Finding out where the jobs are is what's going to be important. So I don't care if you're, for example, in Nigeria, I talk to a lot of Nigerian developers, and C# seems to be very prevalent in that area. And I talked to a great person called Hack Sultan, and he teaches a lot of people Node, and apparently that's very prevalent for remote positions. I don't know. I can't help you with a remote position because I don't have them right now. So I can just say, learn whatever is in demand in your immediate area. And here's the other thing. If you know Python, you're going to know Python anywhere in the world. If you know MERN, you can know it anywhere in the world. What matters is getting a job where you want to get it. Simple as that.
Yeah, I definitely agree. That's why it's hard to answer specific tech stack questions. Which tech stack should you learn?
Yeah, because every area is different. Like, MERN would get you no jobs in Memphis.
Yeah.
But, .NET would get you all the jobs here.
Yeah, the only thing I'd say is that some people get stuck in that question. Like, which tech stack should I learn? And then someone says Python, someone says JavaScript, someone says Java. And, then they get confused and they end up not started. I just say, go learn JavaScript. Use Free Code Camp, learn JavaScript. And then if you want to change languages later, you want to do C#, you can do whatever you want once you learn one language. But yeah, just mainly don't stay stuck in indecision. Make a decision, choose a language, Yeah.
That is so true. And here's one thing, and people always say, well, why do you recommend free code camp right away instead of saying, well, what do they want to learn? And my belief with that is education opens windows, meaning now you can understand what JavaScript is. So now you have a better understanding of what Node is, you have some understanding of what Python could be, and now you can look through that window to see if that opportunity matters to you or not. So that is why I always recommend free code camp first. I don't care where you start, Code Academy or whatever. I don't care if you start with Python, with JavaScript, whatever. Just start with something, and then you'll learn more and where your value is along the way. And here's the other thing. Please understand this. And I'm probably going to be massacred for saying this. Social media is a very, very weird bubble, right? People like what they like, and they hate other things. PHP, for whatever reason,
gets a lot of hate.
I was about to say a bad word, but PHP is like almost discriminated against in the programming world, right?
Yeah.
It's shit on, basically. I mean, I'm sorry to say it like that, but that's exactly what it is. People hate PHP. I can tell you, by the time I retire, PHP will still be thriving. People that say PHP is a dead-end language, they're just talking nonsense. It's companies do not make very fast changes. Companies make very slow changes. PHP powers 80% of the web. Like, companies utilize it in their basic infrastructure for all of these companies. They're PHP is not going anywhere. It's and everything. But if you were to ask someone on Twitter, oh, PHP is dead, the jobs are going to disappear, future in it, it's going to be there for another 30 years, hands down, without a doubt in my mind. So, whatever information you're getting on social media, do your own research. Even for me, no one knows what the hell they're talking about all the time. Even me, whatever I say, don't take this as this is like a biblical verse. Take this as a grain of salt that you're going to now allow yourself to be inspired by and do your own research. Find your own, anything with on social media. I don't care who it is. Even Quincy. If Quincy says something, let it inspire you and now go do your own research. And let the results of that research tell you what you need to do.
Yeah, that's really good advice. So hi Rohan, it's good to see you again. He's a regular.
Hey Rohan.
So Kevin, oh cool. Kevin said, you just inspired me to submit an application for a Python developer job near me. Just completed the application right now.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that's
Get
awesome. All right, so I guess that's it. We answered, I want to say, at least a couple dozen questions in the chat. That was great. Thanks so much for interacting, everyone, for asking all of your questions. Oh, there was one more question. Someone's really excited about getting a job in America. Do you have any advice for that, or can you point them to someone who might know about that?
Yeah, I get that question probably 20 times a day. And like I said earlier, with 30 million Americans losing their jobs, I'm not going to say it's impossible to get a job in America. What I will say is, if you want to get that job, you need to do one thing to remove all doubts, and you need to be so damn good that they can't say no. You need to be so damn good that they may be like, turn them down, or I wish I could turn her down, but she's phenomenal. You need to be so damn good that you may have a difficult name to pronounce. When they look at the application, like, what is that? And then after that meeting, they're like, okay, I need to learn how to say this. Be that damn good that anyone else will bring any more value than you will.
That's good advice. So if you want to find Danny after this, I have some of his links in the description below. I posted his YouTube in the chat. I'll post it again in a comment so you can check out his channel. He's going to be creating lots more YouTube videos very soon, doing more live streams, more content. Yeah, so anyways, you're probably already following Danny on Twitter, but definitely go follow him there, Instagram. He's pretty much everywhere. So do you...
I definitely try to be. By the way, I do want to say one thing. You have some of the most phenomenal people that have showed up in this chat. You've got some really incredible support and subscribers that really support what you're doing, Gwen. I'm definitely one of them as well. So I'm so humbled to be around these incredible people, because when you surround yourself with incredible people, some of it will sprinkle a little bit. So I'm hoping some of this incredibleness sprinkles on me.
That's
But I
funny.
really, really, really enjoyed myself. I enjoyed everyone that I got to speak with. And, I would love to come back again and talk with you. And if someone else wants to come. By the way, real fast, if you have 10 seconds, please go to James Q Quick's YouTube channel, subscribe. He is my mentor that doesn't know I'm his mentor. And I mean, he's my mentor. And until the day he blocks me, I will continue to bother him with questions, comments, and concerns. He is phenomenal. He's the reason why I know as much as I do. He will always forever hold a place in my heart. And I absolutely love that man with all my heart. So
Awesome.
please, please, please show him some love any way possible.
Yeah, he's great. Yeah, so if you have any more questions, sorry we can't get to any more questions today, but head over to Danny's channel, and you said you do Q&As regularly, right?
Yeah, so
Okay.
like this week alone, for example, I did 5 streams, and I don't normally do it like that. By the way, don't get that excited. But whenever I do really a lot of questions, I do try to do I can answer questions in real life, but also tweet at me. I get messages a day. I'll be honest, but when I find interesting questions, I do try to take the time out to personally answer them if I can. And
Nice.
if I can't, that is why I love all the community that we've built. Someone else will chime in with some very good advice.
Yeah. By the way, James is here in the chat. He sent a smiley
That is
face.
why I remembered. I saw his name. I'm like, please,
Oh,
please, please,
okay.
go check him out. Yeah.
Oh, I see. I scroll up and I see him. Oh, I didn't realize you're
Yeah.
here. Yeah, so he already gave you a shout out, and we'll post him in the description below as well, or in a comment actually with your YouTube, so they can check out your Q and
We
A's.
have a lot of people. We have a lot of people to leave in the description. I think.
Yeah.
Code Stacker.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll work on that after the stream. Thanks so much for everything. I'll be live tomorrow morning on Free Code Camp's YouTube channel building a Vue project, and I'm going to need help. This is my first live desktop app in JavaScript. I'm going to be figuring it out live, so please send me some love tomorrow morning if you're able to chat in the Free Code Camp chat. Other than that,
I will be.
do you have any last words?
Stay loyal to Faraday Academy, and you
Thanks.
will not be steered wrong.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks everybody. Bye. Bye, Rohan. Bye, nobodies. Infographs.
Bye, bye, bye.